Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Passion Institute podcast. I'm so excited to have our guest today, who I'm about to introduce. But I saw him up on stage about 20 years ago, and I thought, wow, I want to be like him. And the guy that I've got here is Lindsay Adams. Lindsay's CV, like many of my guests, is pretty long, so let me give you a concise version. Lindsay is what we are known in the world as the relationships guy, and he shows how you can develop relationships really quickly, but also more importantly, how to leverage that relationship to influence others, connect with key business influencers, and increase your sales. Because relationships, we need them everywhere. We need them with our partners and our families. We need them with our business and our teams and our clients. He speaks at a lot of conferences, he delivers training seminars and workshops, and he consults to organizations all around the world. He's really passionate about helping people create the relationship systems so that you can drive excellence. And he's worked with a bunch of companies like Rio Tinto and Suncorp and Domino's Pizza, and the list goes on. And his keynote speeches include topics like relationships on purpose and getting people to say yes when they'd normally say no. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you, Shivani. It's an absolute delight to be here.
Thank you for joining me. Now, we talk about the passion, I talk about passion a lot. The podcast is called that. Lindsay, first of all, I want to know, what does this mean, passion hold in your life? Where does it show up? How do you deal with it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I built my career around understanding people and trying to bring out the best in people. And so my passion is really about helping people understand other people. I've been working, have my own business now 25 years. And prior to that, I worked in government, and first half of my career was in audit, but the second half is in HR and training. And I'm not an auditor, I'm a people person. And so people are what drives me. It's what creates the passion for me. It's about bringing them together, about creating understanding, and then, helping them work better together. People, we have this happy knack of getting off on the wrong foot sometimes, and it's so easy to fix. So that's kind of my passion.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. Lindsay, one of my questions always is, I always think that, there's some of the hard stuff that happens in our life is what really transforms us into who we are, right? And those challenges that come our way, form us and I guess throw us in the fire in terms of that. I'd love to understand a couple of big things that have happened in your life, and really, what was the transformation? What happened, and what happened at the end of that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm going to wind it back a long time ago. I was a team leader in audit, and I went on a manager development program, and it was an extravaganza. In fact, the tax office spent a fortune. Bronwyn Bishop in the Senate at the time slammed the tax office for wasting all this money on developing their leaders. Anyway, so it started off like this. We did a week's residential at Bribie Island at a resort north of Brisbane. We then went to the Byron Bay Beach Resort, did another week. In between, I did a 3-month work placement, another 3-month work placement, and the final episode was on Stradbroke Island at a resort there. We were there from Monday to Friday each time doing really in-depth stuff. And it was really interesting. At the end, the third and final effort, the facilitator at the end of the day said, "Okay, boys and girls, we're done. Dinner's at 7. See you at the bar. Lindsay, have you got a minute?" And I said, "Sure, how can I help?" And he said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a team leader in audit. This is an audit, manager development program." He said, "I know that." He said, "Why are you here? You're not like these people. What's going on?" And so that was a catalyst moment in my life that changed my career. And he helped me understand that I was in the wrong job. I was a team leader in audit. I'm no good at that stuff. And, along the way I did a placement in training, and ironically, I went, wow, I like this, I'm good at this. So I went sideways out of audit into training. But I don't know that it would have happened but for that question. And so a really transformational moment a long time ago.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Like, what is that saying, that sometimes people see in us that we don't see, and then being pulled aside, what a gift that person gave.
Well, now, Shivani, I'm going to get a little spiritual on you. So that guy became my mentor, and I worked with him for a number of years, and then I decided to go into my own business. and I left the tax office and went to various other public sector organisations. I worked in Queensland Health, in Brisbane City Council. In the year 2000, I left and started my own business. I lost track of this guy, and he said to me at the time, I can't be your mentor anymore because I'll be your competitor. And I said, oh, come on, I'll never be as good as you, oh, wonderful master. Anyway, many years later, I've done pretty well, okay? I've done okay in business. And I thought, I really want to track this guy down and thank him. Shivani, I cannot find that man. I went to the house that I knew he lived in, no longer lives there. Looked on LinkedIn, can't find him. Looked on Facebook, can't find him. I've scoured the internet, can find no evidence that this guy is even alive. I was telling an American friend this story and she said, Lindsay, he was an angel. And so I'm going to let that one hang out there. This guy came into my life. He made a huge difference for me. And sadly, I don't have the pleasure of being able to thank him for it, but he made a hell of a difference.
Well, if we're talking spiritual stuff, Lindsay, for a moment, I think that when we give gratitude and we're thankful, I believe that they're going to get it anyway. I think they're going to receive it whether we get to do it in person or not. So I think we energetically send thanks all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now, Lindsay, one of the things you talked about is like your passion is really around people, because the work that you do, and I didn't even go into, like, if I went through all of your CV with what you've done in the speaking world and the contribution that you've made in all the awards, like the awards are so many, like you've got awards where you've done, well, you basically won every award. You've been the Professional Speakers Australia or PSA president. You've been the global, speakers, like presidents everywhere. You've won a bunch of awards, basically every award you won. So you do a lot of stuff with people in your business now, but you also do a lot of stuff with people helping other speakers and consultants and coaches get better at their art. So the next question I'm so excited about your answer is, what are your kind of tips? What have you seen in your own business? What have you seen in the huge amount of work that you've done in the speaking world across the world? How do we create more passionate people? I just love to sort of get those insights into a couple of things that you see over and over and over again in terms of how to create people that are passionate about what they do.
Interesting question. I went to my first ever speakers convention in the year 2000 in Canberra, our nation's capital, and they said, if you want to grow your business, serve your chapter. So I came back and said, I'll do anything. What do you want me to do? Chapter president said, oh, you used to work in the tax office, didn't you? I said, yeah, that's right. Great, you can be treasurer. Now, ironically, Shivani, service has become one of the mainstays of my life. And so when my kids were in kindergarten, I became one of the directors. I was on the board of management of the Croatian Kindergarten Association. I got involved in the Speakers Association. I went on to eventually the national board and then the international board. And so service has been a mainstay in my life. And so if I'm grooming someone else, one of the first things I say is, what's your purpose? Like, what are you here for? What are you about? And for me, and my purpose is to serve. And that, it's not a mercenary outcome, but one of the outcomes of service has been reward. I've met some incredible people around the world. I've built networks across Australia. I've built networks internationally, and I've had some amazing business opportunities that never would have come but for volunteering and serving. And then the other thing is about, if I'm mentoring someone, I give them autonomy. I'm not going to micromanage or tell them what to do, but I want them to, one, have a purpose, but then they've got to set about creating an outcome, so that they know that they're heading in the right direction. And then occasionally I want to hold up the mirror, just as that guy did to me all those years ago, held up the mirror and said, you're in the wrong job. I want to hold up the mirror to those people and go, are you still on purpose? Are you on track? Are you heading in the direction that you really want to be heading? And so I think it's important that, that people have a purpose, and that sometimes we need to guide people to help them identify and then escalate or implement their purpose.
I think that was very aptly put, I think, Lindsay, when you said that my purpose is service. Like, it was so simple but so profound that you just said, I realise it doesn't matter all the different bits I do, it kind of fits into this purpose around service. And then you've got to keep checking in terms of, are you on track or have you moved away from it, and kind of come back in. Yeah, amazing. And so when you build that into conversations with people, like in the work that you do, you're asking them that, and then you're making sure that they stay on track or come back to their purpose if they've moved away.
Well, when you think about it, a lot of people, and I've mentored a lot of up and coming or emerging speakers, and a lot of them get stars in their eyes and go, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to be Tony Robbins. I'm going to earn $1 million." It's not about the money. The money, sure, the money comes. What's your purpose? Like, why are you doing this? Who are you serving? Seriously, if you get that stuff right, everything else falls into place. And so, I don't know, for me, it's a no-brainer. I started off in our organisation here in Brisbane, 25 years ago. One of the guys I had a very close mate, and we walked in the journey together for the first couple of years, and he kept saying to me, "What are you volunteering for all the time? What are you wasting your time doing that for? Focus on your business. You no need to give them all your time." And he couldn't get that service was important, not just to me, but it's important in our community. Think about all of the volunteers out there. If they didn't serve, so many great organisations wouldn't be here today, supporting people at so many levels.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And it's almost that whole thing of when you give, you get back. I know for me, anytime I've given it just hasn't been a one-on-one return. It's been often the return has been 2x, 4x, some years 10x. Like, I've had so much come back and you go, oh my God. So, if for nothing else, for selfish reasons, there's so much that comes back from conversations and people that thank you and the connections that you make. That's really incredible. My next question is loaded, Lindsay, with all your vast experience of business. I'm just going to put that frame on that. That is like all the things that you've learned in business. Whether you were in the tax office and then for 25 years have been running, your own show. What are the couple of things, again, that keep coming up now, just kind of moving away from people, but just generally in business? Maybe it's people related again, but just, what are the lessons or learnings that you've had in business that, you either keep just applying day to day with the work that you do, or that have just come up that have just shifted the way that you think about running a business?
That's an easy one. Relationships. Relationships are the key. When you think about it, relationships underpin everything that we do. Think about if you're a leader in an organisation and you want to lead well, you've got to be in relationship with your people. Want to be in a great team that works well together, got to be in relationship with your teammates. Want to sell stuff, got to get into relationship with your prospect or your customer. And so when you think about it, like, relationships are there all the time. And if we can get that stuff right, then everything else it falls into place so easily. And so, you mentioned I've got a speech called Relationships on Purpose. I wrote a book called The DNA of Business Relationships. And it really, I don't know, there's so many life lessons I learned in the tax office. When I started out there, I did debt collecting. Like, I've done all the charming stuff. Collecting debt, serving summonses, auditing books of account, you name it, I've done it. All the big stick stuff. So I learned a really good lesson. I'm 20 years old. I'm in a house with a guy who's got a removalist truck. He's got employees, and he's forgotten. So he's deducted the tax from his employees' wages, but he's forgotten to send it to us. And so I'm 20, right? This guy's middle age. I don't know how old he was. We'll call him 40 or 50. He's double my age at least. And I'm there reading him chapter and verse from the Tax Act. Sir, do you realise under section 221F5A of the Income Tax Assessment Act, And I said, and I finished with the ultimate threat. And I said, sir, if you don't pay your debt, I have the power to seize your truck and sell it in payment of your debts. And he says, seize my truck. I said, yes. And I thought, I'm getting through. And he did a bit of a yawn. He stretched his arms out and he flicked the kitchen door. And he said, anyone who wants to seize my truck has to talk to me and my mate. And there behind the door was the shotgun. So I learned a really good life lesson that day, that moment, right there and then. If you want to get something from someone, you better be their friend. You've got to be in relationship rather than to be their enemy. And I very sheepishly said, look, mate, I don't want to seize your truck. I'm just a young bloke trying to do a job. I've got to go back to my boss with something. And he took out his checkbook and he wrote out a check for a very small amount of money. And he said, will that do? And I went, it's a start. But you know what? The lesson I learned that day was you've got to get into relationship. If I go there with the big stick and, wave it around, all I'm going to get is defensiveness.
Yeah.
And so, that the whole relationship thing, like step into his shoes, understand his position. How can I help him help me, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're like, I'll take the small amount, not the bullet, please. But yeah, it's interesting. That's a great story. It's such a great story about, about relationships. Lindsay, when challenges come your way, like they do for all of us, whether they come in your personal life, whether they come in your professional life, I'm always curious to learn, how do people address them? Have you got a process? Have you got a ritual? Do you write it down? Do you shut everything down? Do you whiteboard? Like, what's the Lindsay Adam process of when a challenge comes your way? How do you tackle it? How do you break it down? How do you attack it?
Well, sadly, guns are no longer legal in this country. So, no, I started giggling as soon as you said it because I had a situation over the weekend. I'm involved in an international committee in the speaking world, and there's a person who thinks that they are the ultimate rule policer of rules, etc., etc. So this person sent me a filthy email, and I wrote a filthy response, and then I thought, yeah, no, I can't write that, and so I deleted that and I wrote another response which is slightly less filthy, and then I deleted about 3 versions. Anyway, I finally wrote a version, and then I paused, and I thought, I'm going to let this sit in my inbox for 24 hours, and then I'm going to hit send. And so I went back the next day and had a little think about it, and I slept on it. And I went back and I rearranged the words in the most polite way I could, and politely told her to go and mind her own business. So I guess what I'm saying is you can't jump in boots and all straight up. Pause, assess the situation, have a little think about it, and then lean in and write the letter, write the email, have the conversation, whatever it might take. But I think we've got to, people jump in too quickly sometimes. It's easy to shoot from the hip. What's that old, it's ready, fire, aim. A lot of people go, sorry, ready, aim, fire. I did it wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people fire before they aim. And so then all that does is cripple relationships. It hinders, it hurts. Now, nobody likes being told, get back in your box. However, there are times when it has to be said. And so it's the way you do it, and, with the appropriate gravitas or good nature, if I can put it that way.
Yeah. And it's so true, isn't it? Because so many arguments, the situations get a lot worse. Wars start, we look at that all over the world in different levels and different parts of hierarchy as a result of people not pausing and people not thinking that through. And I think, it's so appropriate with your brand, Lindsay, the fact that you said, yep, it was a bit filthy, the last one was a little bit less filthy, and that one, then I went, okay, that's the process, is to be that relationships guy, right? To kind of go, this is the best, and the relationships guy doesn't mean all yeses, is what I heard. It's also about saying no to certain thing, or when people cross certain boundaries, but it's about how you pass that relationships piece. Yeah, I think there's a lot of gold in what you just said, and we could probably dissect that for a couple of hours if we wanted to.
Yeah, and I think it's about standing in your power and being honest and being forthright.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, what about the future? Now, sometimes people go, I don't know, I don't live in the future. Sometimes people go, I've got a 10-year plan. Whatever that time frame is for you, what are some of your future passions? And I'd love to hear about some work ones. I'd love to hear a little bit about I know you're very heavily involved with PSA, Professional Speakers Australia. I'd love to hear about your passions around that, and I'd love to hear any personal ones as well. So whichever way you want to direct that, would love to hear whatever time frame, whether that's, a day or 10 years or longer. Share some of that with me in terms of what are your future things, what do you want to achieve, what do you want to experience still?
Sure. So, I'm heavily involved in the professional speaking industry. I'm currently on the board of Professional Speakers Australia. This is my second round at the board. I was on the board many, many years ago. I'm one of the founders of the Virtual Speakers Association International, which in the world we have what's called the Global Speakers Federation, which is like an umbrella group, and underneath that umbrella are 17 associations. 16 of those are country-based and one is virtual. And the Virtual Association exists for the 170 countries that have nothing. And so 5 years ago, myself and a handful of other speakers created this organisation to make a space for people to congregate, to hang out with people who do what they do and have collegiality. And at the minute, that's the fastest growing speakers association in the world, and I'm really very, very proud of that, and breaking new ground left, right and centre. So, that's kind of the baseline. The other thing is I'm very passionate about emerging speakers, and when I joined the association in 1998, a long time ago, one of the senior members of my chapter put his arm around me and said, "Lindsay, what do you need to know?" And when I made the break, I went full-time in the year 2000, and I was with Brisbane City Council then, and I worked permanent part-time from the 1st of January 2000 with them, and I did 2 days a week for me and 3 days for them, and by March I knew it was going to work, and by May work was getting in the way of business. So I handed in my resignation, started full-time on the first available day in the new financial year, which was the 5th of July 2000. So here I am 25 years later. But what happened when I went to this guy and said, "I'm going to make the break, I'm going full-time," he said, "Right, you and Debbie," that's my wife, "come to my house. We'll sit around the kitchen table, you, me, Christine, Jill." Christine was his wife, Jill was his sister-in-law who worked in the business. And he said, "We'll answer any question you've got. When can you make it? Oh, one thing, don't come unprepared." And I was like, "Whoa." Anyway, we went around and sat at the kitchen table, and he was so helpful. And today I try to emulate what he did for me with other emerging speakers, and put my arm around, reach out, whatever, to help them in their journey, because, that was me 25 years ago. And I'm forever grateful to that guy for his generosity. And to this day, he's still my friend, and I could pick up the phone right now and ring, and he'd go, "What's up, mate? How can I help?" And I want to be that person for other people.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's almost that passing the baton, this whole service thing that you've been speaking about, that he was almost in service of you and saying, "Well, how can I help you?" And then you're passing that baton and that service to other people. That's beautiful. Now, I know you're really passionate about this thing called GSS, which I've heard you speak about. Tell us a little bit about it. You've got like 2 minutes, right? Like 2 minutes, tell us about it.
So the Global Speakers Summit, GSS2026.com, organising an international conference in Cairns in March next year, 13 to 16 March. Be a gathering for speakers from all over the world. We're going to have 400 plus people there. We've got, I think, just under 60 tickets left to sell. It's incredible. We're going really well, but I'd love to sell those tickets. So if any of you listeners are vaguely interested, it'll be a great place to learn. It'll be a great place to rub shoulders with other people who are in the business, and it's a great place to learn. If you're emerging, if you want to come and join in the fun.
Amazing, thank you. Now, I've got a couple of last questions, Lindsay. The second to last question I've got is, what do you do for your, there's a lot of talk about wellness, but, mental wellness we've been talking a lot about, and obviously there's other aspects of that which is related to physical, wellness. Some people talk about emotional stuff. How do you manage your wellness? Like, what are some of the rituals you have or practices you have? You know, when you're giving to people all the time, whether it's in a volunteer capacity or whether it's with clients, there's a lot of giving into family. And, you know, I experience all those pressures too. We kind of have to fill our own cups. What are some of the things that Lindsay Adams does for managing his wellness?
It's really simple. It starts with W and ends in INE, wine. No, I'm just joking.
I'm hoping to end on a more positive stuff here.
Two things, Shivani. Thing number one, journaling. I keep a journal. I write in my journal. I put my thoughts, my frustrations, my learnings in the journal. Second thing, number two, is walking. I used to be a distance runner. I've run, a marathon, half marathons. My feet are buggered now. I've got nerve damage in my feet, so now I walk, and I love walking. I walk probably 6 days a week, and that's my thinking time. I walk and I think and I solve the problems of the known universe. So for me, the combination of taking the time to write stuff down, taking the time to walk and just be out in the fresh air and enjoy the sunshine and occasionally the rain, that's what does it for me.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And Lindsay, if people want to find out about you, about your work, about I know you've got your own podcast and a bunch of other things, like where's the best platforms, where are the best places for people to find you?
Well, good on LinkedIn is a good place to start. Look for Lindsay Adams, OAM. You can, if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me. And this is really complicated. Listen carefully. It's lindsay@lindsayadams.com. And I got the .com and the .com.au, and there's an American comedian called Lindsay Adams who's really snaky with me that I got the .com ahead of her.
Well, you just have to let them know that you're funnier and better, right? And so we can do that. Lindsay, been such a pleasure. Thank you for joining me. I'll have a chat to you as I stop recording, but thank you for sharing your wisdom. As I said at the start of this particular podcast, I remember seeing you on stage all those years ago, and I was pretty much, that emerging, that starting out in business. I just left the corporate world. I was very unsure about who I was and what my offering was and what I was going to do. And so, thank you for being one of those beacons for me. And it's, absolute delight to have you on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Shivani.